Dude, if you look at X-Men fans on Twitter, on X, and the arguments they make, you think that they just don't like Marvel. Like, they just like X-Men. They're the most loyal fans, but a lot of them actually go out of their way to make other heroes look bad. They would do brand synergy in such a weird way in, like, incorporating certain things from the MCU and, like, putting it into the comics, and it just ruined things. Like, I don't want to see Deadpool talk like Ryan Reynolds. The idea of Marvel having a core Trinity is something that's a lot harder to, I guess, decipher when compared to something like DC. DC has made it very apparent, and I guess a part of their brand, who their core three is. Obviously, we know Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they are the core three. They are a part of, and essentially the heart of, not really, but the centerpiece of the Justice League. They are the most popular heroes. They are on what I believe to be the Mount Rushmore of superheroes. All of them are incredibly important culturally and just historically. And they've just been around the longest as well, so they've already sustained their position just by being the OGs. Now, before we get into this video, I'd just like to kind of do a bit of a shout out. This video idea was from one of my viewers. His name is, apologize if I get this wrong, Pat Tuco. So big shout out for you for this this video idea, and I plan on doing it justice. So there's a couple like key factors when it comes to Marvel, and I guess even like before that, tell me who you guys think should be in the core three, the top three, the big dogs of Marvel, who they should be. So for me, when it comes to analyzing this, you have to see who are their most recognizable characters, like what type of like influence they've had on the real world, their own universe, and I guess like certain like eras, right, they've came from. So for me, there's like an obvious one, and then there's the one that I think most people would choose. Like, a lot of people would look at the big three from the perspective of the Avengers. If you look at it, the MCU has been dominant for, well, until recently, they've been dominant for basically a decade and a bit, right? Ever since 2008 to around like 2019, 2020, everyone was about the MCU. So the core three in that case for many people would be Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, which those are inherently great characters, a lot of great material. Iron Man and Captain America were like the heads of like a lot of big events in Marvel, like Secret Invasion, Civil War, of course. They were always big parts of like Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers and Avengers series, which of course led into Secret Wars. And overall, they've just been massive cornerstones of the Marvel Universe. Like, whenever you see Thor go down and do stuff, like when you see him battle like Sentry in the Siege event, you know stuff is going down. There is no way there wouldn't be any like universe or just status quo shattering stuff around Thor, right? Like, whenever he appears in a big event, you know something's going to happen. So these characters have a large influence, but in my opinion, I always relate it back to like when I was growing up, there was the Marvel Heroes series, like around like 2009, early 2010s. It was the Marvel Heroes series, and their big three was Spider-Man, Hulk, and Wolverine, and I believe full-heartedly that those are the big three of Marvel. Just keeping it a sec, like right now, Spider-Man, he is one of, if not the most famous hero on the planet. If you like account for things like how popular stuff like Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse is, and having like Miles and his iconography involved into like what we've seen like with Peter, and of course the Raimi films, Andrew Garfield's movies, Tom Holland's, right? All of those things, big blockbuster films earning like, most of them have earned almost, if not $1 billion, right? Especially these later films. He has made a massive influence. Wolverine, he is, this pains me to say because Cyclops is my boy, but like Wolverine is 100% like the mascot of X-Men, right? Even like me, right? I was in a weird position where it's like, as a kid, I've always been a superhero fan, but the one team that I could not get into for some reason was X-Men. And then over like the what's it called, the pandemic, I really sat myself down and like I got Disney Plus and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do an X-Men movie marathon, and I am going to binge watch like the 90s X-Men show. I am going to force myself. And that just turned me into a fan in like 2 seconds. Like, I just fell in love with just the entire thing. And at that time, like, even like before that, I was watching My Hero Academia. I'm like, bro, this is basically just that, but like the OG and kind of better. Like, that that's what my brain processed X-Men as. And that just made it easier for me to just consume it, right? And these characters, and of course, like X-Men 97 that came out recently was just peak, right? And Wolverine, of course, being a big part of that. You can just see how even like that, right? I didn't like X-Men, but I always liked Wolverine, right? It's kind of that thing where it's like, you don't even have to like the corner universe that he's a part of to like Wolverine. You know what I'm saying? And like the Hulk, I have this one core memory. I don't know why I have this, but it was like back in like 2012, 2013, whenever it was, when they were releasing like the Blu-ray for Avengers, right? And my dad and I were gonna go get this Avengers disc, right? We wanted to watch it, right? Watch it with the family. And this guy just came out and he's like, I'm looking for Hulk. Okay, do you know where Hulk is? I'm like, and then the guy was like, oh, you mean Avengers? And he was like, yeah. So it's like, even though that people didn't even know what Avengers was, and this guy was probably just getting it for his kid, right? The movie, he already knew who the Hulk was. So I'm kind of relating it as in, if you didn't know anything about the Marvel Universe, of course, this like the MCU, right? The MCU kind of bolstered a lot of characters: Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. Well, these characters were known to a lot of like the nerd community, even at like a surface level. The mainstream audience didn't know who these characters were. They knew about Spider-Man, they knew about Wolverine, and they knew about Hulk. And they have great comics, and they've had great appearances in media. Hulk has been done quite questionably. Like, he's been done kind of dirty in recent years, but especially now, dude, I just realized like Captain America, the new Captain America movie, they just gave them Red Hulk and spoilers ahead, and they just gave Cap, Sam Wilson, they gave him the leader to fight against. So they're taking Hulk's villains and giving it to Captain America. It's kind of the same like with Thor Ragnarok. They took Hulk's story in like World War Hulk and Planet Hulk, and Planet Hulk in particular, and they just gave it to a Thor movie. You know how crazy that is? How much they have a whole She-Hulk show, but they aren't allowed to do solo Hulk stuff apparently. Let that sink in. I don't know if this is something to do with Universal. I think it is. They still hold partial or half rights of the Hulk, I think. But that's just wild, bro. We haven't had a Hulk movie since 2008. And I'm of the opinion, and I believe, that we're not going to get a Hulk movie for, like, dude, we might go 2 decades without a Hulk movie. Isn't that crazy to say? Especially when you see, like, people like Al Ewing and, like, Philip Kennedy Johnson drop banger Hulk comics that are, like, begging to be adapted in, like, the past, like, 5-6 years. It's crazy, man. But either way, like, some other like characters that I would kind of like want to talk about, the Fantastic Four. I always thought, like, should the Fantastic Four, I know we kind of like to bundle them as a group. I've even said this in like one of my comments, right, responding to like one of my viewers. I've said that the Fantastic Four, like, they come together as like a package deal, right? It's kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think about, like, if somebody tells me like Star-Lord, I think about the Guardians of the Galaxy as a group. If somebody tells me, oh, Reed Richards should be on the Mount Rushmore of superheroes, I think that Sue, Ben, and Johnny should be up there with them. They are, I don't know, it's like they are this like melting pot of just like cool tropes and like all these things put together that forms one of the best like comics around. Ryan North's run recently has just made me into a massive Fantastic Four fan. Like Jonathan Hickman's run, right? Mark Waid's. These, I don't know, like I can't put any of these characters, it's like as Marvel's first family, I would want them to be there. And if there was more space, I would say that they would be a part of the big three, but I just can't, right? If this was like a superhero Mount Rushmore or like the big three of less like Marvel teams, it would be the Avengers, it would be the X-Men, and it would be Fantastic Four. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if we're looking at it as individual characters, I can't put one of the members there and not want to choose like another one. Like, I love Reed as much as I love Sue, as much as I love Ben, as much as I love Johnny. Like, that's the cool thing I like about the Fantastic Four, is that everyone carries their weight. Everyone can be somebody's favorite, and there's no judgment involved. Like, it's like all of them are OD. And if somebody told me, especially now, right, people just don't have like a good perspective of the Fantastic Four, but they have had a renaissance as of late. Like, Marvel is in their bag. They're putting all the right cards on the table with, of course, the Fantastic Four trailer, First Steps, with them being introduced as characters in Marvel Rivals. And of course, Marvel Rivals is really good at appealing to the mainstream demographic, right, and getting them hyped about like these characters, right? The thing is, it gets the nerds hyped, and then it gets the normies, right? Like, see the hype and see all of the edits that these fans are doing, and then they jump on the bandwagon, right? That's one of the blessed things about Marvel Rivals, is that it gets these people into these spaces that they just wouldn't be, right? A lot of people have given up on Marvel, but as soon as Marvel Rivals came out, people realized that it was fun. It was doing good versions of these it's somewhat inaccurate how they portray some of these characters, but like overall, the way, like the effort that's put in to their designs, their skill set, of course the voice actors, right? This is a type of passion that gets people back into the fandom. And Marvel did like, hats off to them for like putting Fantastic Four as like the first characters of their season. I know it'd be like kind of like they would feel kind of pressured to put somebody like a Deadpool or somebody that they knew would do well, like somebody like a Blade, because it is like vampire themed. But Marvel actually sticking to their guts and being like, you know what, why don't we actually use our multimedia marketing in a good way this time? Because if you didn't know, like, Marvel tends to do stupid things where they're like, you know what, for this sort of like brand cohesion, what's the right word? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like, say Spider-Man 2, like the Spider-Man 2 film came out, and then they had like a Spider-Man 2 game along with it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, right? Where it's like they do things, they synergize, brand synergy. Oh, let's continue. They would do brand synergy in such a weird way, in like incorporating certain things from the MCU and like putting it into the comics, and it just ruined things. Like, I don't want to see Deadpool talk like Ryan Reynolds. It works well for the movie, but for the comic it just doesn't work. I do not want Jon Bernthal to be the face of my Punisher. It just looks weird. You don't gotta do all that, brother. We know it's the same character. We bought the comic for a reason. And the thing is, it just alienates comic fans, right? The people that are gonna buy comics are the people who are gonna watch the media, not the other way around. That's why I've been kind of like happy that I've seen like DC in particular actually like market their comics and like have like QR scanner codes where it's like, if you scan this, it sends you to the comic, like a link to buy it, or even sometimes it just gives you a comic, which is crazy. But like, that's like what I wish Marvel, I don't know if Marvel ever done, maybe they have, feel free to correct me in the comments down below, but I feel like Marvel, considering how big they were in like the heyday of the MCU, 2019 Endgame in the summer, my guy, like back then, dude, they should have done a huge marketing push for their comics. Like, even if you look at big YouTubers, as I've talked about this Comic Explained briefly in my previous video, but like, if you see Comics Explains, like his view count for his full story, like comic series, putting all of his videos together for like 4 or 5 hours, it is insane. Like, I'm sure like there's an Iron Man one that got like 4, 5, 6 million views. Either way, huge tangent aside, I think like the big like 3 of Marvel can also be seen like from like an era perspective. Like, for example, back in the day, in the 90s, what was like the biggest thing in Marvel? Like, what was carrying their brand? You have to remember, in the 90s, Marvel was going through supreme bankruptcy. That's the reason why a lot of their stuff was like, why they sold a lot of their stuff, why Marvel was essentially in pieces, right? They gave Hulk to Universal, they gave Fantastic Four and X-Men to Fox, they gave Spider-Man to Sony. Like, they did all of these things just to get themselves out, right? And thankfully a lot of these things did pay off. But back in the day, the thing that was their moneymaker, what was actually the best or highest selling comic of all time, was the X-Men. I could see how people could think that the Wolverine, Cyclops, and like I don't know, Professor X or Magneto or whatever could be the big three. Like, if we're going to, like, go band for band and, like, say the Avengers could hold the entire spot for the big three, the X-Men literally carried the sinking ship for a long time. Like, Spider-Man was there as well, but, like, X-Men? Bro, they had it, bro. When you had, like, Chris Claremont in there, Jon Byrne, Jim Lee, they were doing their thing, bro. And you have to remember, this is during the time where it's like Batman and Superman are multimedia famous superstars, right? Everyone knows who they are. And the X-Men still found a way to reach like millions of copies. Granted, there was like the speculator boom that was like a huge impact on why people got a bunch of comics, especially since it was a #1 comic. Like issue 1 relaunch of X-Men with like Jim Lee art. Like, if anything was going to blow up, it was probably going to be that. So I don't, like, blame anyone for getting that, but either way, it did paint X-Men and those characters as, like, the face of Marvel. And if people do believe that, that's honestly just based. Like, I would want... Like, I like the Avengers, but, like, there's some sort of, like, I don't know, pretentious side of me that's like, you know what? The MCU had their chance, bro. The X-Men... They're where they're at. And to be fair, even if you look at X-Men 97, you could see that X-Men is the franchise for Marvel. They are that missing piece that they need to essentially bring back their fan base. I feel like the X-Men fans are probably the most loyal fan. They are annoying as heck though. Like dude, if you look at X-Men fans on Twitter, on X, and the arguments they make, you think that they just don't like Marvel. Like, they just like X-Men. They're the most loyal fans, but a lot of them actually go out of their way to make other heroes look bad. They don't take, like, any accountability on the fact that their writers, the X-Men writers themselves, might actually write these other characters and crossovers poorly. Like, bro, they make Captain America and X-Men look like Adolf Hitler. Like, I don't know what they're doing in the X office, but they want to make Captain America look racist. I'm just saying it how it is. They have it out for this man, and they make Cyclops look good every time. Why do they do this, bro? Like, Cyclops is the character where you don't need to push other characters down to make him look better. He is already that guy. Everyone in the court is saying Cyclops is right. You do not need to do that. But alas, Marvel has a habit of doing that, and fortunately, I guess, like with Jed MacKay and his recent run, because he's writing X-Men and Avengers at the same time, this is once in a lifetime opportunity. They finally made it so that the Avengers are finally backing the X-Men when the government are trying to take them down. And it's like, wow, what a creative idea, guys. Thankfully, somebody came up with it in the past, like, I don't know, 60, 70 years. But here we are. Better late than never, I guess. I'm just so pressed whenever they do Captain America dirty, bro. Like, how can he be such a symbol of just liberty, and then as soon as he gets into the X-Men comics, they make him look horrible. They make him look racist as hell. They make Captain America look racist. I don't know why, but either way, comics. Like, what do I say to this? But overall, there's not really much else, right? Iron Man, yeah, he might be the star of the MCU. Yeah, Captain America, Chris Evans, he is my GOAT. But, like, I can't really see them saving the sinking ship. If you look at just pure comics, I've talked about this before, Iron Man and Captain America are poor souls, bro. I don't know why for being so big, they go for Spider-Man level records of not having good comics. Thankfully, Chip Zdarsky, he does look very promising. Like, he looks like a very promising writer for Captain America. And of course, this new Iron Man medieval arc does look really promising. So they are on the up and up. And Thor, of course, Immortal Thor with Al Ewing on the board, you know it's going to be good. So yeah, you can make a good argument for them. But overall, Spidey, he's on the leaderboard. Hulk, he's on the leaderboard. Wolverine, he is definitely on the leaderboard. All of them they've cut out their own space, right? Even if you weren't a Marvel fan, even if you didn't know who they were Marvel's most recognizable icons. Spidey, Wolverine, and the Hulk. It just is how it is. Through prior adaptations, Hulk, of course, with Lou Ferrigno. Spider-Man, he's been getting adaptations for decades. And Wolverine, he his first one was in like 2000, right? So it's like at the start of the millennium. So honestly, it just makes sense why people just knew about them. Same way with like how Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, right? With like Adam West, Michael Keaton, Christopher Reeve, and like Lynda Carter, right? They were adapted in the past in pretty big like sources of media, right? And that kind of just bled itself into the cultural zeitgeist and kind of got people in the know of these characters, right? That's the same thing that I'm applying to my Marvel Trinity. Anyways, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live. If you have any video topic recommendations, please leave it down in the comments below. And yeah, see you all later.